Many out there saying that Donald Trump is not acting the proper way that a presidential candidate should act. But what his critics can't seem to explain is his popularity. And that is why our poll question tonight is, what character trait do you want the most in a presidential candidate? Truthfulness, fearlessness, act presidential, or never misspeak? Vote in that poll at u2america.com or download on the U2 America app for your iPhone or iPad, and you can vote right there. Now, John Hawkins of Right Wing News may have some ideas for us on why Trump is so popular. So let's just ask him. John Hawkins, welcome back to the show. Good to have you.
Gina, it is fantastic to be back on with you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Now, John, let's watch again what Lindsey Graham had to say about Donald Trump today.
That he's a jackass.
Pretty clear and concise. And let's check out what Trump did in reaction to that. Here in 1 minute. It's going to take our guys just 1 second, and
please,
it's coming.
Please, whatever you can do. You know what I'm saying to myself, what's this guy, a beggar? He's like begging me to help him with Fox and Friends. So I say, okay, and I'll mention your name. He said, could you mention my name? I said, yes, I'll mention. And he gave me his number, and I found the card. I wrote the number down. I don't know if it's the right number. Let's try it. 202-228-0292. So, I don't know. Give it a shot.
All right, John Hawkins. I have to ask: Did you text Lindsey Graham today?
No, I didn't text Lindsey Graham. It would be fun to text him, though.
Yeah.
Two things. I watched that clip before, the part before Lindsey Graham, before he spoke there, and what he said. And I can tell you, if you want to know why Trump is so liked, one, he's a fighter. He's not going to take that lying down from Lindsey Graham. He's going to smack him back. Now, I don't really think he should be giving out people's private phone numbers. He did. But, hey, he's a fighter. But the other thing he said before that I thought was fascinating is he came out and said, yes, and I have given donations to Democrats. I've given to Republicans. I've given money to Hillary Clinton. And you know what? When I call them up, they'll do whatever I tell them to do. They'll come show up at my wedding if I tell them to. Nobody can pay me. Nobody can buy me off the way they buy these other guys off. And you know what? That's true. This guy said, I didn't even ask for donations. People are sending money in anyway, but I don't need it. You want somebody who can't be bought like these other guys can, which is true. They can be. You put in Donald Trump, so people look at that. They look at the fact that he's a fighter. They know he's competent. I mean, let's be honest. He's more qualified than John McCain to be president of the United States. John McCain's a blowhard who sat in the Senate and has done nothing but fail for his whole career. You know, at least in the Senate, I think he did a lot of stuff as a war in the war. But where's that courage he showed in the war in the Senate? He hasn't shown any of it. He's been a failure. Donald Trump, you can guarantee that he would go out and get the job done. So, I mean, you look at that and people say, hey, should we go with this guy? They're at least giving him a look, which I think is all you can ask as a candidate.
All right, John, but I guess how would this race be different if Donald Trump weren't in the race? What would it look like today?
That's a good question because he is sucking up so much of the oxygen. You're not even hearing from anybody else. It's really Donald Trump and others.
Yeah.
That's the whole race right now. It really is.
And so a lot of people have said, you know, every time he does something else, literally every day, someone says, oh, now he's done. Now it's over. And the Beltway boys are the worst of them. Even the pundits who aren't necessarily Beltway boys, even the more conservative pundits, I've started noticing, keep throwing out words like, he's just not presidential enough. John, do you think it matters to the American people whether or not this candidate looks presidential?
I don't think it does now. When we get closer to election time, and this is the thing that happens a lot of times with authentic candidates who people like and sound good, if they make too many gaffes, those things start to add up on them. If people start to say, gee, will I pull the trigger for this guy or not? I mean, think about, and I hate to compare, it's not really a fair comparison, but think about Howard Dean, how he caught it. You know, he caught fire there for a while, and people liked him, and he was the truth teller. I mean, the left thought he was a truth teller. Then he had one yard too much, and he was down the toilet. Yeah. Well, if Donald Trump accumulates a lot of gaffes, that will weigh on him eventually.
But no candidate before has had the money to do his own PR campaign. I mean, that's the thing about Donald Trump. If he wants to just run nonstop feel-good commercials about himself, Or nonstop, see, McCain really is a loser. Oh, by the way, has anybody really looked at his Vietnam records, which are being, of course, held by our government at this point, classified. There's a lot of suspicion around him. I mean, Donald Trump can do things. He has tools in his arsenal that other candidates didn't have, and it's not limited to the things that he mentioned that you were talking about. It's not limited only to his being untouchable from the perspective of someone buying him off, but it's also his ability to really penetrate grassroots if he wants to via a public relations campaign, for example. So doesn't that make him a little bit different than a Howard Dean or a Sarah Palin?
I tell you, if you wanted to compare him to somebody, for good or ill, I'd say Ross Perot. Now, I read Ed Rollins' book about running his campaign, and this is something you might see with Trump. I don't know. As he got deeper into it, Ross Perot didn't want to spend his own money. I mean, he had a lot of money like Trump, but he got into it. He started talking, hey, are you going to spend $100 million on ads? Well, so far, Trump hasn't had to do that. Right. If he gets to the point where he has to start jumping in, hey, 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, yes, he has it. But he got to that point of having so much money because he doesn't like to dispose of it like that. Will he do it? I think it depends on how well he's doing. If we get up to, to Iowa, to New Hampshire, and he looks like he's in the ball game, we're going to see. Then we're going to see, hey, are you really going to spend the money it takes to win? Because this is a $100 million campaign, at least, to win the primary. At least. That's low. You're talking about being the president? That's $1.5 billion. Now, is he going to spend that? We'll see.
We'll see. But, for all his money, I've never seen someone better at getting the free media than Donald Trump. I mean, I get hundreds of pitches every day for people to be on this show, John, and I got to tell you, if Donald Trump's name is on that list, he's on this show that day, no matter what I have to do. And I think that's the way most media feels about him. There's just a Midas touch right there right now, so we'll just have to keep watching. John Hawkins of Right Wing News, thank you so much for being with us, my friend. I like the fuzzy face, by the way. I wanted to tell you that.
That means a lot. Thank you, Gina. I really appreciate it. If you like it, it must be good. I'm going to stick with it.
Handsome. Hard to imagine you could get more handsome, but I think you just did it.